Don't forget to subscribe. Enjoy your viewing.
I never imagined that the day I discovered my wife's betrayal would unravel my world so completely. My name is David, and for many years I believed that trust and love were the unbreakable foundations of my marriage to Elena. Our life together had been an intricate tapestry woven with shared dreams and silent promises, but that tapestry began to tear apart on a chilly autumn evening when subtle hints and inexplicable absences started to weigh heavily on my heart. It began innocently enough, small details that I later recognized as harbingers of my impending heartbreak. Elena's laughter became more secretive, her phone now buzzing with mysterious calls, and the warm openness in her eyes grew guarded as if concealing hidden truths. At first, I dismissed these signs as mere fluctuations in her mood. However, as days turned into weeks, my unease transformed into a gnawing certainty that something was deeply wrong. My suspicions were confirmed one fateful night when I stumbled upon a series of messages on her phone. The words, laced with flirtation and longing, painted a damning picture of infidelity. The man in question was named Marcus, a charming, enigmatic figure who had quietly insinuated himself into our lives. Elena had met him at several art gallery events, where his polished manners and magnetic presence had captivated her. I recalled the evenings when she would gaze at paintings with an intensity that I had never seen before, as if the artwork had suddenly come alive with a passion I could not understand. The shock of betrayal crashed over me in relentless waves. I experienced a torrent of emotions, anger that seared my insides, sorrow that blurred my vision, and disbelief that made me question every memory we had forged together. I spent long nights roaming the silent corridors of our home, each room echoing memories that now felt tainted by deceit. My mind replayed every shared smile, every whispered promise, searching desperately for a moment I might have overlooked, a sign that could have saved me from this crushing revelation. Desperate for answers, I confronted Elena. My voice trembled as I demanded the truth, my words spilling out in a mix of anguish and disbelief. In the harsh light of our confrontation, her eyes, once filled with unyielding warmth, now shimmered with a blend of regret and defiance. Elena confessed to the affair, describing it not as a premeditated betrayal but as an escape from a suffocating routine. She insisted that Marcus had awakened in her feelings long buried, presenting her with a vision of freedom that I, caught in the mundanity of our predictable life, had failed to provide. In the days that followed, my world descended into a vortex of isolation and bitter introspection. I withdrew from friends and family, finding solace only in solitary walks through the rain-soaked streets of our city. It was during one such wander that I met Benjamin, an older gentleman with kind, wise eyes and a gentle smile that belied a lifetime of hardship. Sitting together on a park bench beneath the dim glow of a street lamp, Benjamin recounted his own story of loss and recovery. He spoke of betrayal that had once nearly broken him, and of how the ashes of his pain had ultimately given birth to a stronger, wiser self. His words, simple yet profound, ignited within me a tentative spark of hope. Emboldened by Benjamin's counsel, I resolved not to let this betrayal define me. I immersed myself in work and rediscovered long-forgotten hobbies that once filled my heart with joy. I began attending art exhibitions, the very venues where Elena had found solace with Marcus, seeking to understand the passion that had drawn her away. Each brushstroke and burst of color on the canvases whispered secrets of a beauty that could exist even amid sorrow. I found comfort in volunteering at a local community center, where helping others heal their wounds became a balm for my own aching soul. Amid this turbulent period, an unexpected twist emerged that further complicated my feelings. One rainy afternoon, while rummaging through old boxes in our attic, I discovered a faded envelope addressed to me in Elena's delicate handwriting. Inside, I found a letter penned several months before her infidelity had come to light. In the letter, Elena revealed a side of herself I had never known, a heart torn between duty and the crushing weight of unfulfilled dreams. She wrote about a longing for freedom from the constraints of our conventional life, about how she felt imprisoned by the expectations of society and our unspoken routines. The letter spoke of internal battles and the desperate desire to break free, a desire that she had kept hidden even from me. Reading her words, I experienced a cascade of conflicting emotions. The raw vulnerability in her confession stirred within me not only sorrow but also empathy. I began to see the affair in a different light, not as a cold, calculated betrayal, but as the tragic result of a woman wrestling with her own inner demons. My anger softened, replaced by a deep, painful understanding that perhaps neither of us had been entirely to blame. Elena's actions, however misguided, were rooted in a profound struggle to reconcile her inner self with the life we had built together. In that moment, as the rain drummed softly on the attic window, I realized that forgiveness might someday be possible, even if it could never erase the wound entirely. I resolved to embark on a journey of self-discovery and healing, determined to reclaim the man I once was and to learn from the shattered remnants of our past. I knew that the road ahead would be steep and lonely, but I was resolved to forge a new identity out of the pain, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Now, standing at this uncertain crossroads, I see my future as a blank canvas. The vivid hues of hope and despair blend together as I prepare to paint a new chapter of my life, one defined not by betrayal but by the strength to overcome it. The scars of yesterday serve as constant reminders of our imperfections, yet they also illuminate the possibility of renewal. Though Elena's infidelity has altered the course of our lives irrevocably, it has also ignited within me a fervent desire to embrace change and to seek meaning in every fractured piece of my existence. Every step I take now is imbued with the lessons of my shattered past, and while the echoes of betrayal still resound in the quiet moments of reflection, they no longer hold me captive. I am learning to live with the pain and to let it transform into something unexpectedly beautiful, a raw and honest portrait of human vulnerability. As I move forward, I carry with me the memory of Benjamin's kind words, the haunting truths in Elena's letter, and the enduring belief that even in the aftermath of profound loss, there exists the possibility of rebirth. In the weeks that followed the revelations of Elena's betrayal, I found myself standing at the precipice of a new existence, one that was as daunting as it was liberating. The initial shock had gradually subsided into a numb determination to rebuild my life from the fragments of shattered trust. I realized that healing, like the slow unfurling of a flower in winter, would require time, introspection, and a willingness to confront my own vulnerabilities. My first step into this uncharted territory was to leave behind the confines of our once shared home. I decided to move into a modest apartment nestled in the heart of a bustling neighborhood. The change of scenery was not just physical but also symbolic, a deliberate effort to distance myself from painful memories and the ghost of what once was. In this new space, I sought to recreate a sanctuary where I could rebuild my identity free from the shadows of betrayal. The city, with its ceaseless hum and vibrant energy, soon became both my refuge and my canvas. I started frequenting the local cafes, where the clatter of coffee cups and the murmur of conversation provided a soothing background to my solitary reflections. It was in these moments of quiet observation that I began to notice the subtleties of life, the interplay of light and shadow on the streets, the way strangers exchanged knowing smiles, and how even in the midst of urban chaos, there existed pockets of serene beauty. Each of these observations slowly stitched together the fabric of a new understanding, one that emphasized the transient yet transformative nature of human emotions. My journey of self-discovery took an unexpected turn when I enrolled in a creative writing class at a community center. I had always been fond of words, of weaving stories that could encapsulate the intricacies of the human heart. Sitting among a diverse group of individuals, each with their own tales of joy and sorrow, I found a shared vulnerability that bridged our differences. The act of writing, of pouring my innermost thoughts onto paper, became a cathartic ritual. Through the rhythm of sentences and the cadence of paragraphs, I began to articulate the tangled emotions that had plagued me since Elena's confession. It was during one of these classes that I met Sophia, a gentle soul with an infectious laugh and a spark of creativity that lit up even the dullest days. Sophia had endured her own share of heartache, and her candid openness about past wounds resonated with me. We formed a quiet camaraderie, bonding over shared experiences and mutual encouragement. Our conversations often drifted from the art of storytelling to the raw realities of life, and I found solace in her understanding. Sophia's presence served as a reminder that even in the aftermath of betrayal, genuine connections could be forged from the embers of shared pain. As autumn deepened, the city's transformation mirrored my inner metamorphosis. I spent long afternoons wandering through local art exhibits, finding inspiration in the creative expressions of others. One particular exhibition, titled Resilience in Color, captured my attention. The collection featured works that depicted tumultuous emotions through bold strokes and vibrant palettes, a visual symphony of despair and hope intertwined. The exhibit stirred something within me. It was as though each painting narrated the journey of my own heart, with its battles and quiet victories. In that gallery, I felt a profound kinship with the artists who had channeled their suffering into beauty, affirming my belief that pain, when embraced, could be transformed into a force for renewal. Yet, amid these moments of creative rebirth, the specter of Elena's betrayal continued to linger. There were nights when I lay awake, haunted by the memories of shared dreams and promises broken. The ghosts of the past whispered questions that I struggled to silence. Had I been too blind to see the signs? Could I have done something differently? These introspective battles were not fought with fury but with a somber acknowledgement of my own limitations. I began to accept that some questions might never find satisfying answers, and that the pursuit of understanding was perhaps less important than the act of moving forward. In the midst of my introspection, an unexpected encounter jolted me out of my self-imposed isolation. One evening, as I left the community center after a particularly stirring workshop, I was approached by an unfamiliar face. His name was Julian, a soft-spoken yet enigmatic individual with eyes that seemed to hold the weight of unspoken stories. Julian was a street musician, his life a mosaic of highs and lows, and he carried a worn guitar that had clearly seen better days. He shared tales of the city's underbelly, of love lost and dreams deferred, and as he strummed a melancholic tune, I recognized in his music a reflection of my own internal struggle. His presence reminded me that every soul, no matter how battered, has a story worth telling, a story that can serve as a beacon in the darkest of nights. Encouraged by these encounters, I began to see that the journey of healing was not a solitary endeavor. The support of newfound friends and kindred spirits gradually mended the frayed edges of my identity. I started to engage more actively with community events and even volunteered to help organize local art and music festivals. The act of contributing to the collective creative spirit not only bolstered my self-worth but also reaffirmed my belief in the resilience of the human spirit. One chilly evening, as winter hinted at its approach, I found myself revisiting an old park, a place where Elena and I had once shared dreams beneath sprawling oak trees. The park, bathed in the soft glow of twilight, evoked a bittersweet nostalgia. In that moment of solitude, I realized that the past, with all its pain, was an integral part of who I had become. I made a silent vow to honor every experience, every heartbreak, and every moment of joy that had led me to this point. The betrayal that once threatened to destroy me had, in a paradoxical way, illuminated the path to a more authentic self. Now, as I stand at the threshold of a new chapter in my life, I embrace the uncertainty of the future with cautious optimism. I have learned that life's unexpected twists, no matter how painful, can also be the catalysts for profound personal growth. My journey is far from over, and while the scars of the past remain, they are now symbols of survival and transformation rather than mere reminders of loss. In the interplay of twilight and hope, I continue to write my story, one chapter at a time, each word a step toward rediscovering the strength that lies within. The uncharted path ahead is daunting, but with every sunrise, I am learning that even the most fragmented pieces of a shattered life can be reassembled into a mosaic of resilience, passion, and unexpected beauty. The winter frost had begun to thaw, and with the arrival of spring came a season of unexpected renewal and daunting choices. My journey of healing had progressed in leaps and bounds, yet each step forward still carried the weight of my past. I found myself standing at a crossroads, torn between the comforting familiarity of solitude and the beckoning allure of new relationships that promised the possibility of love and companionship. Sophia, whose gentle warmth had long been a beacon amid my inner storm, emerged as a steady presence. Her unwavering support during our creative writing sessions had gradually blossomed into something deeper, a connection that transcended our shared heartbreaks. We began spending long afternoons strolling through botanical gardens, our conversations meandering from philosophical musings to the tender details of our personal histories. With her, I discovered the beauty of vulnerability, a realization that exposing one's inner truths could lead to genuine intimacy. Yet, as our bond deepened, I wrestled with a gnawing uncertainty. I could not help but wonder if my heart, still tender from betrayal, was truly ready to open again. Amidst this internal debate, an unexpected invitation disrupted the tentative calm of my new routine. Julian, the soulful street musician whose melancholic melodies had once stirred my weary spirit, approached me one cool evening with an intriguing proposal. He spoke of an underground music festival, a secret gathering of artists and dreamers that promised not only a celebration of art but also the potential for life-changing encounters. Intrigued by the possibility of immersing myself in a world where creativity was the lifeblood, I hesitated only briefly before agreeing to attend. That decision, made on impulse, would soon weave a complex tapestry of fate and redemption. The festival was held in a converted warehouse on the fringes of the city, a space where raw energy and unfiltered creativity mingled in the air. As I stepped inside, I was immediately enveloped by a vibrant spectrum of sound and color. Strobe lights flickered across walls adorned with graffiti, and the hum of passionate conversations blended harmoniously with the resonant beats of live bands. It was here, in the midst of creative chaos, that I encountered Alexander, a man whose charisma and passion for life were as undeniable as they were enigmatic. Alexander was a figure of contradictions. By day, he was an influential art curator known for his discerning eye and impeccable taste. By night, he transformed into a fervent storyteller, regaling audiences with tales of lost loves, personal rebirth, and the sheer magic of embracing life's uncertainties. Our conversation flowed effortlessly, and he seemed to understand the unspoken language of wounds and healing. With every word, he offered a perspective that challenged my long-held beliefs about trust, betrayal, and the human capacity for forgiveness. His insights, at once blunt and compassionate, stirred within me a dormant curiosity: could there be redemption in redefining the very nature of intimacy? That night, as the festival reached its crescendo and the music soared into the early hours, I found myself sharing my innermost struggles with Alexander. I confessed how Elena's betrayal had shattered not only my trust but also my confidence in love. Instead of offering empty reassurances, Alexander encouraged me to see my scars as chapters of a greater narrative, a story that was still being written, one that could evolve into a testament of resilience and transformation. His words resonated with an honesty that I had not heard in a long time, prompting me to question whether I was holding on to my past pain more tightly than necessary. As the festival wound down and the first hints of dawn crept over the horizon, I left the warehouse with a head swirling with possibilities. My encounter with Alexander had ignited a spark of hope, a reminder that life, even after its most devastating blows, could still be filled with wonder and reinvention. However, the path ahead was far from straightforward. The tender connection I shared with Sophia now felt tinged with the bittersweet uncertainty of unspoken expectations. While Alexander's perspectives had invigorated my mind, Sophia's quiet presence had soothed my heart. Caught between two worlds, the exhilarating promise of new adventures and the familiar comfort of shared empathy, I was forced to confront the truth about my desires and the nature of my healing. In the following weeks, I oscillated between introspection and action. Mornings would find me immersed in my writing, scribbling down fragments of thoughts that danced between despair and hope. Afternoons, however, were often dedicated to spontaneous meetings with friends, impromptu jam sessions with Julian, and lengthy walks with Sophia, whose gentle laughter gradually began to fill the empty corridors of my soul. Each experience, each encounter, was a step toward reclaiming my identity, though the process was riddled with moments of uncertainty and self-doubt. One evening, while watching the city skyline from my modest apartment balcony, I received an unexpected message from Alexander. He invited me to a private exhibit he was curating, a collection that celebrated the beauty of imperfection and the transformative power of loss. The invitation felt like a subtle prod, urging me to explore facets of life that I had been reluctant to confront. On the night of the exhibit, surrounded by art that spoke of broken dreams and triumphant recoveries, I felt an unfamiliar stirring of inspiration. The pieces on display mirrored the tumultuous landscape of my emotions, each stroke and hue reflecting the intricate interplay of sorrow and hope that defined my current state. As I wandered through the gallery, I realized that my journey was not merely about moving on from betrayal, it was about embracing every aspect of my experience, however painful, and allowing it to shape the person I was destined to become. In that moment of clarity, I decided that I would no longer be defined solely by the wounds of the past. I chose instead to see them as catalysts for growth, as stepping stones on the path to a richer, more nuanced existence. Yet, even as I embraced this newfound resolve, I remained aware of the delicate balance that existed between my past and my future. Sophia's unwavering kindness continued to be a pillar of strength, and her presence reminded me that while new perspectives were vital, genuine connections built on mutual respect and understanding could not be easily discarded. Together, we acknowledged that the road to healing was winding and unpredictable, a journey marked by both loss and renewal. Standing at this crossroads, I understood that the choices before me were not mutually exclusive. I could cherish the lessons learned from past betrayals while remaining open to the transformative power of new relationships and experiences. Alexander's fiery passion for life, Julian's soulful melodies, and Sophia's quiet compassion each represented a fragment of a mosaic that was slowly coming together. In that mosaic, every shard, no matter how jagged, played an essential role in forming the complete picture of who I was becoming. The echoes of betrayal still haunted me, but they no longer wielded the power to define me entirely. With every conversation, every burst of creativity, and every quiet moment of introspection, I was gradually learning to integrate the fractured pieces of my identity into something whole and resilient. The uncharted path before me was daunting, yet it brimmed with the promise of transformation, a promise that, even in the midst of life's most turbulent storms, the potential for rebirth was always within reach. As the last traces of winter faded and summer's warmth slowly embraced the city, I found myself standing on the brink of a profound transformation. The years since Elena's betrayal had been a journey of deep introspection, painful self-discovery, and unexpected rebirth. In the quiet moments before dawn, I would often catch my reflection in the window, a man who bore the scars of loss yet glowed with the quiet dignity of someone who had chosen to grow from his pain. The path that had once seemed fraught with despair had gradually revealed hidden gifts. The friendships I had cultivated with Julian, Sophia, and even the enigmatic Alexander were no longer fleeting distractions but pillars of a renewed self. They had helped me see that every encounter was a lesson, every shared smile an affirmation that life could still be beautiful after betrayal. It was in these moments of connection that I truly began to appreciate the value of vulnerability and the healing power of honest communication. One sunny afternoon, while sitting in a bustling park surrounded by families and lovers, I received an unexpected invitation in the mail. It was a ticket to an exclusive art auction curated by none other than Alexander, a man whose insights had challenged me to redefine the boundaries between love and loss. The invitation promised an evening of art, music, and reflections on the beauty of imperfection, and it stirred something deep within me. It was as if the universe was urging me to take another step forward, to let the past rest while embracing the present with all its glorious uncertainty. That evening, as I entered the softly lit gallery, the hum of quiet conversation mingled with gentle strains of live piano music. The walls were adorned with artworks that captured the raw spectrum of human emotion, from dark, brooding abstracts to luminous, hopeful landscapes. Each piece was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, and I felt an immediate kinship with the artist's expressions of pain, passion, and rebirth. Wandering from one exhibit to the next, I paused before a painting that particularly captivated me. It depicted a stormy sea slowly yielding to a brilliant sunrise, a visual metaphor for my own journey. The artist's signature, barely visible in the lower corner, was Elena. My heart skipped a beat. I learned later that the work had been created before her departure, a secret testament to a love that was both beautiful and tragically flawed. The discovery stirred a whirlwind of conflicting emotions within me, sorrow for what had been lost, gratitude for what had been learned, and cautious hope for what might yet be reclaimed. In the days that followed, I reached out to Sophia, whose gentle presence had remained a constant source of strength. Together, we revisited the park where we had once talked for hours about life, art, and the courage to move forward. In our conversations, the subject of forgiveness emerged, not simply as an act of absolving another, but as a liberating gift to oneself. I began to understand that forgiving Elena, and perhaps even forgiving myself for the past, was not a concession to her choices but an act of reclaiming my own power. As summer matured, I found myself drawn into organizing community events that celebrated creativity and healing. I co-founded a local initiative titled New Dawn, which brought together artists, musicians, and writers to share their stories of transformation. The project became a vibrant tapestry of diverse voices, each narrative a reminder that even in the wake of heartache, beauty could emerge. Julian's soulful music provided the soundtrack, while Sophia's eloquent prose wove together the themes of resilience and hope. In those gatherings, I witnessed firsthand the transformative power of shared experience and the realization that every broken piece could be reassembled into something uniquely meaningful. One particularly memorable evening, as the community center buzzed with excitement over an open mic night, I took a deep breath and stepped onto the small stage. The room fell silent, the expectant gaze of an audience that had known both my struggles and my triumphs fixed upon me. I began to recount my journey, not with the bitterness of betrayal, but with the honest candor of someone who had embraced the full spectrum of life's emotions. I spoke of the cold, isolating nights, the pain of shattered trust, and the long, lonely walks through rain-drenched streets. Yet I also celebrated the unexpected kindness of strangers, the beauty of art that had healed my wounded heart, and the steady, unwavering support of friends who had become my family. In sharing my story, I discovered that vulnerability was not a weakness to be hidden but a strength that connected me with others. The audience responded with quiet applause and tears of recognition, as if my words had touched on truths they had long kept hidden. That night, I realized that every ending, every painful farewell, could be transformed into a beginning if one dared to see the light behind the darkness. Months later, on a warm summer evening when the sky was painted with streaks of pink and gold, I found myself walking alongside a familiar figure. It was Alexander, returning from another successful exhibit, his eyes reflecting the spark of relentless curiosity about life. Over a cup of coffee in a quaint, hidden-away cafe, we discussed art, forgiveness, and the inexorable pull of destiny. He confided that he too had once been at a crossroads, torn between the lure of new experiences and the comfort of what was known. In his words, I recognized the universal struggle of embracing change while honoring one's past. That conversation became a turning point. I came to see that the true measure of our lives was not determined by the betrayals we endured but by the courage with which we rebuilt our hearts. I had learned to cherish every lesson, every heartbreak, and every moment of beauty that had accompanied my journey. The love I had lost was a part of my story, but it was not the entirety of it. There was a future waiting, a future that I had actively chosen to create, filled with art, community, and the quiet promise of new beginnings. As I now stand at the threshold of an unwritten future, I carry with me the echoes of my past as gentle reminders of where I have been and who I have become. The journey was long and often arduous, but it has left me with a profound understanding that life is not defined by its moments of pain, but by the strength to rise above them. Every sunrise, every shared laugh, and every act of forgiveness has added depth to my character and richness to my soul. In embracing the new dawn, I have learned that the scars of yesterday can shine like badges of honor, symbols of resilience, proof of survival, and testimonies to the transformative power of hope. I step forward with open eyes and an open heart, ready to greet whatever adventures lie ahead. And in this embrace of the present, I finally understand that while the past may shape us, it is the choices we make today that define the future.